Hello! Welcome to a Comic Tropes Art live stream. I'm Chris. I'm just turning down some of my background music here, making sure that my settings all seem to be okay. I think so. I've been banging out a sketch. I'm adjusting my chair. That's awkward. I've been creating a sketch today based on the Inktober prompt Treasure. Made me think of the Leprechaun. Hey, it's RuneScape. Nice to see you, friend. Iron Shell is here. Lovely. Cool to see some regular faces. Much appreciated. And we're just going to get right into it. My overall goal is to use a lot of black in this one. To just spot as much of it as I can. And yeah, just really play with the shadows and leave most of it to the imagination. So we'll see. Feel free to ask any questions that you may have. Maybe we can prompt some discussion or stories. I love telling stories when I can think of them. So always open to that. Let's see. Good morning, Seed Hill. Let's see. Hello, Brian. Hello, I Do Art. Hello, Sokita. Hello, Xeno Gamer. The Leprechaun, they're so silly. They're terrible for the most part. Hello, Brian. Oh, I said hello to Brian. Let's see. Let's get it out of the way. What do you think of the Joker movie? Right. Everyone's been asking me that each night. And as well as, like, what kind of pen do I use? Hello, it's McGee. And I have seen the new Joker. Yeah. I didn't really care for it too much. I didn't think it was that good. Do you prefer brush inking or pen inking? Brush. Well, no. I think that I get a better result, but it takes a long time for me to do it that way. So now that I'm thinking of it, like, there's a reason why I'm doing so many of these live streams with pens, brush pens. So I'll go with brush pens. I think that's the more honest answer. But how's everybody doing? I know it's super late. It was just that's my work schedule these days. It's not much I can do about it. It's been a little rough. I know that, like, Comic Tropes came out about a day late, but better, I think, a day late than a week off, right? So, you know, I should be caught right back up by next week. So there is a new episode up now. Talk about Lock and Key, which is really one of my personal favorite comics. I love it. I have not gone to art school, but I have taken like one or two art classes over the years. Like, you know, in college I took one as, you know, to fulfill, like, you know, an undergrad requirement. And then, like, when I was a teenager, like over the summer, like I think I was 13, I took a life drawing and cartooning class that was being taught at, like, you know, it was like an elective that, like, anyone could take, but it was being taught at, I believe, Massachusetts College of Art. It's hard to remember back that far, to be honest. So I've taken a class here or there, but no, this is self-taught, or I'd probably have more discipline for putting in the work. Yeah? My cat's sort of talking to me a little, so I'm talking back to her. What else? Do you want to get up here? Do you want to say hello to the people? You can say hello. Here's Chibi. She's as skinny as always. Let's see. Hello, Compared. Let's see. Who else? Sorry, I was like smelling her. We gave her a shot, so I think I smell it a little bit. The Leprechaun is a guilty pleasure. Yeah, and I'm specifically trying to draw him from his Leprechaun in the Hood era. I've ordered Lock and Key, looking forward to it arriving. I think you'll enjoy it, Seed Hill. It really is a fantastic story. It's just so well paced. It's going to bring you along for a great ride. Hello, Jeff. Hello, Sheldon. Hello, Care Bear. I'm glad you started late since I just finished up my latest issue of my webcomic. Oh, that's very cool. Yeah. Hello, James. I wish the people of 4chan would still celebrate Catter Day. Oh, I didn't know that was a thing they did. I've never really been in that community, though, so I guess I wouldn't know. Hello, George. Just going to work on a little bit of feathering here. Yeah, I've been tremendously backed up. Like, obviously, like, the episode for Comic Tropes came out, like, a week late, but beyond that, I owe a friend some artwork for a comic, you know, that I'm going to contribute to, and should be published before the end of the year, so I really need to hurry up and get that done this week. But I was backed up something fierce. Late hours at the job, just trying to make a sale, and what can you do, you know? Cat's making all sorts of crazy sounds. Have I read or seen 30 Days of Night? Both. I love the premise. Love the premise. Was kind of disappointed in the execution of it, to be honest. And that's mostly just because in the story, it like the vampires descend on this real town, Barrow, Alaska, that only gets like, you know, well, it has like a full 30 days of darkness at this one point in the year. Just like in the summer, it has 30 days of light. Because it's really far to the north, so it's like it's tilted at a weird angle that the rest of us aren't really ever subject to on the planet. So anyway, the premise is, you know, vampires descend on this town because they don't have to worry about sunlight for a full month. Great premise, great premise. But then, like, the story jumps forward something like 28 days. You know, it just jumps forward towards the end, and I'm like, wait a minute, like, I want to see like how those people survived that whole time. Like, it tells the story so quickly, and maybe it like went into that in one of their like sort of sequels or spin-offs. I guess I don't know about that. I only read and saw the original story, and don't even remember the movie, to be honest, other than I think Josh Hartnett was the star, and so that like kind of dates it, because he was really only starring in stuff for a relatively short period of time. Wow, thank you so much for the super chat, Sanity. That's really appreciated. Thank you so much. That's amazing. That's really cool. Let's see. Hello, James, and hello, Ramsey from France. Well, hello from the United States. Catter Day used to be big on 4chan, but the sites like iFunny and all the others started bastardizing cat memes. We'll never run out of cat memes, though. Hello, Rebel Leaf. I once met Warwick Davis. My buddy took a picture of us. He said, "Guess I really got to bend down to take this pic." I'll never forget that pissed look on Warwick's face. Yeah, that's not the most sensitive thing to say, is it? Oh, well. That's too bad. I don't think, now that I'm thinking of it, I guess I've never met Warwick Davis, but I can think of another small person actor that I did meet, and that's Kenny Baker, the guy that played R2-D2. I was just at one of the Wizard World conventions in Chicago. I'm going to guess like 2004 or something. And I was just sitting in a panel, and this guy, like, it was Warwick Davis, but I didn't know, not Warwick Davis, it was Kenny Baker, excuse me, just stuttering because I'm not thinking. Warwick Davis, like, came up on this scooter, and then, like, just sat next to me, and I was like, this guy looks familiar. Like, it took me quite a while, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, of course, he's... And he wasn't, like, a guest, he was just sitting in on the panel, but he sat next to me for, like, you know, the next hour and a half or whatever. It was I was like, oh, it's Kenny Baker. You got it, Jack. Let's see. Hey, I'm from Toronto, Canada. How did you like it in Canada? I love it in Canada. I've been to Toronto, the Canadian side of Niagara Falls, and then what do you call it? Vancouver many times, because Vancouver is actually a fairly short ride from where I live. Fairly short drive. It's like within 3 hours I can be up there. I like Vancouver a lot. Vancouver's a cool city. Toronto's big. Toronto definitely reminds me more of like, you know, what I grew up with on the East Coast. It's got some elements of it that are reminiscent of New York, but it's its own thing. But yeah, Canada's great. The Leprechaun is about to pull up the block with a blunt and a Glock. There you go. Thanks for featuring my girlfriend's Vampirella art on your show today. Oh, was that her with me as the bat? That's awesome, George. Thank you. Be sure to pass on like my thanks to her. That was a really creative little piece. I liked it. What other questions are being asked? Let's see. Did I ask Kenny Baker anything? I remember talking to him a little bit, but I don't remember anymore. It was just too long ago, and you know there was a panel going on. I talked to him a little just to say like, oh, you know, like I appreciate your work, and he seemed to appreciate that. And then I might have asked him something right at the end, but yeah, there was no deep, meaningful conversation. It was just like, hey. Cool to meet you. Nothing fancy. What else is being asked? The only celebrity I've ever met is P. Allen Smith. I don't know P. Allen Smith. I've met a lot of celebrities, I guess. I don't need to name drop, I guess, but actors, for the most part. I've met a lot of actors. I don't think that Jennifer Aniston had a boob shot in Leprechaun. I don't think so. I think I would remember that. But I don't know. Yeah, Jennifer Aniston and her original nose were in the first Leprechaun movie. I'm trying to actually turn this down, not up. Richard Kiel played Jaws. I don't think he's still around. Did he? Did he pass away? I guess I didn't remember that. That's too bad. He was really funny in Happy Gilmore. But he was definitely one of the best James Bond henchmen. And yeah, he was great. I like when Shooter McGavin is taunting Richard Kiel. He's like, "Oh, you can count," and he's like, "And you can count on me waiting for you in the parking lot." I think that movie's pretty funny. Are you dressing up for Halloween? I don't think so. Did Jennifer Aniston get a nose job? She definitely did, Jaden. Take a look at an image from what do you call it? Leprechaun, and then take a look at her from Friends. She definitely had work done. She looks pretty different. think she still had her original nose when she was in that TV show version of Ferris Bueller as well. That was brief and short-lived, but I'm pretty sure I'm remembering correctly that she was one of the actresses on that show. I met Bart Sears this weekend. He drew a Brute sketch. Yeah, I remember the days of learning from Bart Sears in Wizard magazine. Is he working on any comics these days? I feel like the last time I remember seeing him was on like DC stuff like Eclipso back in the 90s. It's been a while since I've seen some artwork by him. Do you ever read manga or manhwa, or do you just stick to American comic publications? If you watch my channel, you'll see I definitely read manga. I probably don't read like tons of manga. It's certainly not something I'm like deep into. Basically, I'm up for reading anything that's a good comic book, and there are some fantastic comic books that are manga. I'm a huge fan of Naoki Urasawa, who's done Pluto, Monster, 20th Century Boys. I think they're all brilliant things. Fantastic. He's one of the best out there. I've really enjoyed Bakuman by the guys that did Death Note, but that Bakuman is like more of like a light comedy romance type book that's primarily about like two young kids that are just graduating high school and decide to become professional manga creators, which I think would interest almost any of us that read comics. I really like that one. These days I really like My Hero Academia. One of my all-time favorite mangas is Akira. And then what else do I like? I don't know. I think Junji Ito is one of the best like horror comics guys out there, and he happens to create a manga. Got a coworker that tells me that she reads a bunch of Korean manhwa, but I haven't asked her like yet. I haven't gotten a chance to know what's really good. Justin Trudeau won again. Interesting. Hellboy's great, Jaden. Hellboy's great. Yeah, Sokita, the Monben show by Naoki Urasawa is honestly like maybe my biggest inspiration for starting my YouTube channel. What I would like to do someday is, if it ever took off, let's be honest, that's a long shot. But if it took off, I would prefer to sort of pivot this to doing more interviews like within a creator's work environment. Not exactly what Naoki Urasawa did with Monben, but definitely gathering some of the same information, like, you know, really breaking down the creative process. More than just an interview, like really just seeing the creative process and asking them follow-up questions about it and stuff. I think that would be really interesting. I would really like to do that kind of a show. But I'd need a good amount of money to sort of fund something like that. So like it would require this show being significantly more successful. But that's something I'd like to do that I think like would be a pretty good pivot. Hello, Potato Jones. Am I excited for the Lock and Key TV show? Absolutely, but I've been excited twice before, too. There was a pilot that was made for Fox that had a really great cast, and the showrunner was Joshua Friedman, who did the, in my opinion, fantastic Sarah Connor Chronicles TV show. So I was really hopeful for that one, but that one didn't get picked up. And then Hulu made a pilot, and that didn't get picked up. But when Netflix decided to pick it up, they did keep the actor that they cast as Bodhi, if I remember correctly. If you ever find yourself in the Philippines, try looking into Treese. It's a supernatural crime comic. Oh, sounds cool. I saw the Rise of Skywalker trailer. I was at work, but it was pretty quiet, so I was like hanging out in our lounge area where we had the game on, and I'm also a Patriots fan. You know, tonight the Patriots were playing, and winning, and so I was watching the game, and at halftime, boom! All of a sudden, there was the trailer. Looks pretty action packed and exciting. Hi, Chibi. Meow. This pen is dying. I don't think I should use this one anymore. That makes sense, Potato Jones, if not wanting to watch a trailer for something you feel like you'll definitely say, like, why spoil it for yourself, I guess. I was watching the Patriots practice. Well, just about. It was a shutout. It was probably not fun to watch if you're a Jets fan. I once gave George R. Martin a hard time about that. I interviewed him once on an old podcast I used to do about like various TV shows, and I was fortunate enough to interview George R. Martin. And he's a big Jets and Giants fan. Hates the Patriots. I don't remember exactly what I said now, but I pushed back a little on that one. He took it in good humor, thank goodness. Yeah, they didn't. I don't think that this Star Wars trailer really gives away anything about the plot, and I was grateful for that actually, because like, I wasn't necessarily planning on watching the trailer, but I was watching the game, and all of a sudden there it was. I wasn't going to turn away once I saw what it was, but it just sort of hints at like imagery and stuff like that. I don't think it really gave away anything, fortunately. What do you want? Oh yeah? Are you on the table? Maybe you should get down. I'm talking to my cat. I know I sound like a weirdo. Trailers today show you everything. They can really ruin things. Thoughts on the Canadian election? I guess overall, I'm glad Trudeau won. I guess. You know, he's made some mistakes. I really thought that like getting caught in blackface might really crush him, but I guess people were willing to forgive it. You know, he's better than like a more conservative option in my opinion, but I'm not an expert on Canadian politics. But I'd prefer to be a Canadian citizen these days. You guys have it overall pretty good up there. I love visiting Vancouver. I had an opportunity about like 2 years ago to potentially work for an animation studio up there. I knew someone that worked at it, and they were hiring, and I had the qualifications, but the biggest issue was the pay just wasn't there, and it's too hard to move to another country and like sort of take a pay cut. I love the new trilogy cast. I love them. I'm a huge fan of Rey, Poe, Finn. I love them. I grew up with Star Wars, but I love these new characters. Didn't love the prequels for whatever reason, but I do love this new trilogy. At least so far. Oh, wow. Thoughts on the U.S. election? Do you think Trump will get reelected? Boy. Probably not. I hope not, but I would never have expected him to win in the first place, you know? So it's really hard to say. Yeah, I don't, would he get reelected? I think he's eroded a lot of his base over the last couple of years. But you just don't know. Oh, I haven't seen... Is there a Bloodshot trailer? I haven't seen that. I have not read Amulet by Kazu Kibushi. Is that the guy that did the Flight books? That's interesting. So Bloodshot has a trailer, huh? I didn't see that. I think, fortunately, Rebel, there is some good competition. I mean, I think Elizabeth Warren is going to end up being like a pretty big competition. She's really, really smart and tough. She's very smart. I think that she's got... but you know what? Even though that's what I want and stuff, I guess I'm going to like shy away from politics because plenty of people would find that alienating since that's not the type of show that I do, so... I'll leave it there. Hello, Alexovich. Vin Diesel looks nothing like Bloodshot. Oh, so they didn't put him in like any sort of like body paint or anything? I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it. Yeah, I remember the Wes Craven Swamp Thing movie. Not that great, to be honest. I don't know why exactly it didn't quite work. You would think that Wes Craven should have been capable of doing something with it, but it just didn't come together, in my opinion. It's a little amusing on a sort of campy level, but yeah, that's not a great movie. I even like the cast that they assembled. Everyone, like, in front of and behind of the cameras should have made it work. But maybe it was budget or probably just overall the script. But it just does not really come together. I still have nightmares of that Swamp Thing movie. The bad guy messed me up. Yeah, Louis Jordan. He's a good actor. He was a James Bond villain in Octopussy. Probably the best thing in an otherwise, like, pretty lackluster James Bond movie. And I say that as a big James Bond fan, but, Meow? Why are you meowing so much? Oh, do you need anything? You just had a lot of food. You've got water. Do you just want attention? My cat's trying to talk to me, and I'm just trying to talk to her as though I can get some sort of an answer that understands. Have you read something of the new canon of Star Wars comics? No, I guess I haven't read any of the Star Wars comics based on, like, you know, the new movies. I read some of the Star Wars comics that were set back, like, in the original trilogy era, like when those first came out. Like, Jason Aaron was doing some stuff. John Cassidy did some gorgeous artwork. So I read some of that. I read the Darth Vader comic a bit. I liked what I was seeing. But I didn't read any of the stuff based on, like, the new movies. I like the movies for what they are, but I don't really want to see, like, all the sort of extended universe stuff. I kind of burned myself out in the 90s on extended universe Star Wars. I just was at a point where for a while I was like reading just about every novel and comic that came out, and just sort of got burned out. Not on just Star Wars, but well, yeah, I guess on Star Wars. I guess actually on Star Wars. GB, come here. Yeah, the early Vader comics were pretty dope. The Man Thing movie wouldn't give nightmares to much of anybody. They'd put him to sleep though. Yeah, that was. Don't bother if you're curious. They did make a Man Thing movie. Sorry, I got quiet there, just sort of thinking about what lines to add and what not to add. Do you like Hellblazer? I do. I don't think I could call myself a massive fan, only because I haven't read tons of it. I read the original run for a little while, but I need to catch up and read more. Like I don't think I ever. Who was it? Garth Ennis wrote it for a while. I don't think I ever read any of his run. I may have read like an issue, but I don't think I ever read his run. And I don't think I ever read anything by like Brian Azzarello. So like I missed some of the classic runs. I would like to catch up on that someday. Maybe next year, come like the Halloween season, Hellblazer could be like a good option to discuss. That would be cool. Hello, Caleb. I wonder what a Fin Fang Foom movie would be like. I don't know, but there's a small part of me that wonders if Fin Fang Foom might be able to show up in the Shang-Chi movie. I think that there's a small chance. That makes me think a little bit of Iron Man, and I only just realized this recently, but I guess it was always public knowledge that Iron Man is going to be in that Black Widow movie. I was like, oh, he's still around. Huh. Not like still as in like the modern day, but like just that Robert Downey Jr., I should say, is still making them. Like I was like, wow. I didn't know that like that he was still doing them. I feel like the Watchmen show was me trying to paint Mona Lisa Part 2. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Some people are telling me they love it. Oh, Iron Man and Black Widow is from a deleted scene? Well, then that might be like way smaller than I realized. I don't know. Maybe that is the case. Oh, I guess I'll just wait and be surprised. I hope that they dig deep and use a bunch of the Russian superheroes that the Marvel universe has created. I know they've got like Red Guardian, but there's a ton of Russian superheroes. You got like Crimson Dynamo. You've got Ursa Major. You've got Black Star. I don't know. There's a lot. Some questions or anything? James Olin, I agree. I hope Red Guardian's role is pertinent. I'm sure it can be. I like David Harbour. He's got charisma. They could fight Omega Red. Yeah, they could bring him in. I think that they'd probably want to save that for their X-Men stuff, just to be on the safe side. Me Gold. Not quite sure what that means, Penguin. Do you like Preacher? I haven't been able to keep up with the TV show because I canceled cable quite a ways back. Like, it's been a couple years since I've had cable. But I like the comic. I liked it a lot more when I was younger. I feel like I did a reread of it, and some of it didn't age that well. It's still got a great overall arc to it. It's just that it's also like, as a younger guy, I didn't realize just sort of how almost try-hard some of the outlandishness is. Like, you know, it's Ennis was just always trying to, I think, like, make a scene and dial everything up to 11 on purpose. And it didn't quite read like that to me when I was younger. I was just like, cool, this is so out there and everything, and now I look at it and I'm like, this seems a little forced just to be shocking here and there. But I do like the main characters. I like Jesse Custer and Tulip and Cassidy. I do like them as characters. I like Harris Starr. This is a good villain. So overall, I guess, I still like Preacher. I just I liked it more when I was younger, that's all. Preacher can be very edgy. Still coming along great. Well, thank you, RuneScape. Blue Beetle is a public domain character. Yeah, the original version is. What would happen if somebody just completely rewrote him and it became more popular than DC's version? Well, that's the thing. The character is public domain, but DC may have trademarked the name, not the character, but they may have trademarked the name. So I don't know. There may still be, like, impediments to using him. You might be able to use a guy by, like, the real life person, like, not real life person, but, like, the civilian identity of the original Blue Beetle, whose name is currently eluding me. Not the Ted Kord version, the one before that. I would imagine that while DC doesn't have, like, a copyright on the original Blue Beetle, that's expired, that they still have a trademark on the name. Dan Garrett, right. So you could probably make a story about Dan Garrett and even, like, refer to his past adventures, but you probably don't have the right to call him Blue Beetle, which would sort of take away anyone's interest for the most part. Like, at that point, what are you left with? Not much. I'm not an expert. I'm just guessing at that like DC has probably been able to at least trademark Blue Beetle, but I don't know for sure. I'm not going to be anything, I don't think, for Halloween. I'm not invited to any parties that I can think of, and pretty sure I'd actually be working that day anyway. So let me take a quick look, actually, at my schedule. 31st. Yeah, I'm working that day, so I doubt I'd I'm working until 9 p.m. I mean, kids are trick-or-treating by then, so I'm not going to any parties or anything on Halloween, I guess. It kind of stinks sometimes working a work schedule where you don't, like, work the same sort of Monday to Friday that most people do. It means that you do miss out on some things. Yeah, but You do what you got to do to pay the bills. You can call him Blue Beetle inside the comic, but not on the cover as a logo. Right. That's true. Makes it tricky. Makes it real tricky. But, it's doable. But it's along the lines of like when New Line Cinema owned the rights to Jason Voorhees, but they couldn't call their movies Friday the 13th, so they had Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Freddy vs. Jason. They couldn't, like, they had to get around it, sort of. They were able to because the character is more recognizable than the title, but some superheroes, like, their name is more iconic than their look. It depends, like, on what, companies can own certain things. They can trademark certain things as, like, their take on the material. It's like when, for instance, there was a huge rights dispute for ages over James Bond, and I forget the name of the company now, but like a company made a competing James Bond movie against Roger Moore. They even hired Sean Connery to play their James Bond. Even, he'd played the original essentially, but they got him to come back. But they couldn't use the score. They couldn't use a lot of the sort of things that the movies had established. Just stuff that like came from one specific movie. It got weird. It got real weird. So Never Say Never Again is a strange, like, it's a James Bond movie, but it isn't like what most of us would call an official James Bond movie, because it has none of like the recognizable elements of it. It's an interesting experiment, but ultimately it's just the same story we saw in Thunderball, so I didn't think it was very good. Blue Beetle has an action figure, so he's probably copyrighted. Well, his costume is, again, there's difference between like copyright, registered, and trademarked. Copyrighted stuff is what falls into the public domain, but a company can keep its trademarks and registered stuff. So they could like trademark or register uniforms, icons, names, logos. Yeah. It gets pretty confusing. See ya, Xenogamer. Thanks for stopping in. In the 90s, there was a Friday the 13th show that had nothing to do with the movies. Right, but it actually was still produced by, I think, Paramount. So it was like, it actually was still, like, technically tied to the owners of the movies. They just were like, yeah, we're not going to use Jason or any of the mythology, but you can, like, have the name. And I think one episode featured Jason's mask in it, but I can't be sure if I'm remembering that right. It was all about like these kids and like their either uncle or grandpa's antique shop that was always full of cursed antiques, and they were always tracking down cursed antiques. That's certainly nothing like a movie about a killer that goes through the woods chopping up counselors. Pretty weird. Never Say Never Again was made by a producer who owned part of the rights to Thunderball. Kevin McClory is his name, actually, and he co-owned Thunderball because he developed the movie with sorry, all of a sudden the name of James Bond's creator is escaping my memory. As soon as I hear it, I'll remember, but it's escaped me. But anyway, yeah, so Kevin McClory co-wrote Thunderball, and he ended up like owning the rights to that premise, and he tried to like say that he owned James Bond himself, but ultimately that didn't hold up. But it was enough for like a movie studio to make at least one more sort of competing James Bond movie. And then like that guy tried to make another. He actually had another script, but like you could only have it something like 25% different from his original script, so he couldn't like come up with like a different villain than Blofeld and Emilio Largo. Like they had to be in it, no matter what. So it was kind of weird. Hello, what is this? Thank you, Iron Shell. Ian Fleming. The name was on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, Potato Jones. I love the classic Universal monsters. The Thing, Creature from the Black... Not the Thing. The Creature from the Black Lagoon and the Mummy is what the first two I was thinking of. Wolfman, Dracula, Frankenstein, Invisible Man. They made so many good ones. But man, that idea of theirs to make a shared universe as though it was like a Marvel movie, but like full of like monsters, that was not well executed. It was so mercenary, like how obvious it was that they were just like, yeah, we're gonna get through this movie, but the important thing is, don't worry, like, you know, eventually we'll have the monsters all team up. And it's like, just make me care about one monster first. Dark Universe is dead. That thing is dead. The Gillman has always been my favorite, but Bela Lugosi is the best. Bela Lugosi is great, and but I have to agree with you. I just love the design of that Creature from the Black Lagoon suit. Like, what an amazing suit. And the fact that it was created, like, you know, back then, so long ago, kind of makes it extra interesting and impressive. The Invisible Man is my personal favorite. So interesting that movies from way back then can still be appreciated. Absolutely, a good movie's a good movie. The Creature from the Black Lagoon does deserve a remake, I think. The only thing that would like kind of depress me is like if it got like super digital. I feel like that you would really lose something like in terms of the menace if you just sort of saw a digital thing, like, you know, running through the water really fast, like underwater or whatever. Like, I don't know. I don't think that would be very scary. But, you know, good special effects are good special effects. That's all. I just don't want to think of them as special effects and get distracted with it looking like too clean or something. Wolfman? Wolfman is interesting, but I also sort of feel like I'm still waiting for, like, you know, like a better adaptation of that material, like where he's more of like a scarier werewolf than just sort of like a hairy man that's like lost his mind, you know, like kind of like a drunk Wolverine or something. I want to see something more done with that concept. I guess you have to like really think like what's the scariest element of the idea of a man turning into a wolf? Is the scary like what happens to the body? Is it body horror? Is it like scary that he's lost control and feels bad about what he does? Or is the scariness just the fact that there's this incredibly powerful creature that's like smarter than a wolf. Like where does the horror truly come from? And that figuring that out, cracking that nut, is the first step towards making a good remake of the Wolfman, which I think is they've tried to do some remakes and stuff, and I don't feel like any of them have ever really captured my imagination very well. They did that one with Benicio del Toro, like, geez, at this point it might be like 10 years ago, but doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but maybe it was. The spookiest part is the man hating that he kills. So like in that, like it's more of a psychological drama of like, you know, like how far can he allow this to go before he hurts someone. And I mean, that's kind of the same sort of like fears that like an alcoholic deals with, you know, like knowing that there's this scary person inside or scary thing inside that, like, you know, they don't want to let out, but they feel like it's inevitable, and when it does come out, it's just a completely different situation. Anyway, there's a lot of different ways you could go there. A female version of a werewolf should be called a whiff-wolf, linguistically speaking. True, where is German for man, right? So like man-wolf? Something like that? Pretty sure it's German. But at this point, werewolf has sort of become an American word rather than a translation, so that's why they'll go like, you know, like were-panther, or were-bear, and you're just sort of like, yeah, okay. Male, female, whatever. Were just seems to indicate that, like, it's part this, part that. Like, language is weird. Language evolves and changes. Language is pretty interesting stuff. Wish I was better at understanding foreign languages. I've said before that if I could have a superpower, one that I'd really, really like in this world, like as long as there's no other sort of superheroes and supervillains, would be Cypher from the X-Men, who can like instantly learn any other language. I was like, boy, would that be useful, to be able to just travel the world and instantly understand and speak with locals and have no barriers there. That would be amazing. You'd get to experience the world in a much more satisfying way, I think. I would love to see a werewolf story in older times, maybe 1600s in older Europe. Yeah, that could be cool. Jekyll and Hyde, Banner and Hulk, yeah, those are definitely similar ideas. Definitely. Whiff is pronounced more like weave. Weave wolf. Doesn't sound right, does it? If anyone's ever seen the hilarious Taika Waititi movie, What We Do in the Shadows, he has proposed a sequel to that called Werewolves, about the werewolves that are in that movie. I thought that was a pretty clever title anyway. And I would love to see more in that sort of universe, more in that world. I really like that movie. What We Do in the Shadows. That's, as far as like comedies in the last 10 years, that one's way up there for me. Could we ever get a Hulk movie based on Immortal Hulk? Not in the immediate future, unless it could somehow be paired with another superhero that Marvel has, just because Marvel doesn't have the rights to distribute a Hulk movie, a solo Hulk movie. The rights for that would still go to Universal. It would be a split. That's why Hulk has increasingly been only a character. Not increasingly, basically has been since his first movie. Like, they've only had Hulk as a supporting character in other movies. They can use him as a supporting character, but if he's the lead, then it becomes Universal would still have the right to distribute it. Curse of the Werewolf. Those Hammer horror movies, those are something special. If you want like true, like blood-soaked, like nudity-filled, terrifying like horror movies that also surprisingly happen to feature some really good English actors, like a Christopher Lee, it is stunning how good the Hammer horror movies are. I'm right here. Oh, you're talking to your brother? Okay. Werewolf by Night should either get a show or a movie. Maybe. I think what they might do instead, though, is let's see how Moon Knight and Blade do. Because if one of those does only okay, not great, they might try to prop that up some more by adding Werewolf by Night to one of those. But if they both do really well, then maybe they'd take a chance on doing Werewolf by Night by himself. That's just my opinion. My favorite Hammer movie is Horror of Dracula. I think mine might be too. The Dracula movies are my favorite, and Horror of Dracula is a really good one. Any thoughts on the upcoming Blade movie? Looking forward to it. Blade's a great character. No reason that he necessarily has to be a R-rated horror type movie per se. Because, come on, let's face it, it's definitely going to be PG-13 now. Mahershala Ali is a really good actor. I've never seen him do a bad performance. That guy's a great actor. This could be the kind of thing that catapults him into an A-list celebrity status, kind of like Robert Downey Jr. Because I think he's really close. He's done a lot of prestige pictures, but he hasn't necessarily done a movie where he's the lead of an action sort of mainstream type movie. Jinro the Wolf Brigade. That's the anime, right? I haven't seen it, but I had a friend back in the day, Corey Walker, who co-creator of Invincible. Not name dropping, just explaining who he is. I believe he really liked that. I know he really liked the design anyway of those helmets in Jinro. I remember that much. I haven't talked to him in a little while though, so I don't. I'd love to ask him if he still loves it. It'll be hard to get on Robert's level of success. It will be, but it's just a match of the right character at the right time. Robert Downey Jr. was not the A-list Robert Downey Jr. he is now before Iron Man. Iron Man catapulted him into a new level of his career. It just worked. Just worked really, really well. I don't know The Witchfinder General, actually. Is that a Hammer horror film? I'd have to look it up on Wikipedia or something. We're getting closer and closer to Halloween. People are getting in the mood to see horror movies and stuff. I like it. I like that attitude. Horror is fun. I don't know exactly why I like it so much, but I definitely do. Hey, kitty cat. Do you want to stop meowing? Probably annoying my audience. I'll cuddle you in a little bit. I'll cuddle her in a little bit. Don't worry, the cat's getting treated very, very well. She's old. She has days where she just meows a lot, and I took her to the vet recently. They don't think that she's in pain or anything. They think that she's just become a chatterbox. Hi there. This is Chibi, and if you've been hearing the meows in the background, this is her. She's just become very, very chatty as she gets older. I think she just really likes attention like this. She likes being held. Not always for a long time, but she likes being held. People forget Robert Downey Jr. was in prison before Iron Man. Maybe. I mean, he didn't hurt anyone. He just, drugs. He had a lot of problems with it. Hi, Chibi. Oh, thanks, Care Bear. See, people are saying hi just to you. Just to you. She's giving me kisses. Thank you. You're a very sweet girl. What other questions do we have? I was disappointed with Dracula's castle in the Hammer films. I just didn't feel it was creepy or forbidding enough. Now, the castle in the Lugosi film, that's a place I'd never go near. Well, you might have a point there, I guess. I think it was good set design, but I also give the Hammer movies a small pass just because they also didn't have the most massive budget. And you could do good acting, you could do bloody effects. The budget for an actual location, that was a little harder, I guess, at the time. So I guess I gave them a little bit of a pass there. You have a point. AIP was a company that specialized in drive-in fare. They did a lot of low-budget horror films. Do you like any superhero comic fan films? Oh, I'm generally not a huge fan of fan films. I appreciate the work that goes into it, but I also, I tend to look at them and go, well, that was well done, but, they're not, making any money on it or necessarily getting noticed. For all that work, I feel why not just do something original that you can, sort of capitalize on? That's what I tend to think of. But I guess some people just get pleasure, same as cosplay, just sort of being their characters. Zeropa Baby says maybe I should revisit Osamu Tezuka's Dororo, speaking of horror. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Is it Domoru? I forget exactly how to pronounce that. Sorry. Thoughts on the upcoming Morbius movie? I don't have a lot of faith in that one. Not the most compelling character in and of himself, and I say that as somebody that read his solo comic book back in the day. I was never quite convinced that it was he was interesting in and of himself. He was fine as an antagonist for Spider-Man that you were also you felt pity for. You were oh, this poor guy, he's not necessarily a bad person. He's just had a weird condition befall him. But in and of himself, I've never found Morbius that compelling. And Jared Leto can be a great actor, okay? Because I saw Dallas Buyers Club, and I was yeah, I guess that dude did deserve the Oscar. That was a pretty amazing performance. But sometimes, he was a total monster trying to be the Joker. Just claiming he was in character and sending his co-workers, really horrible things in gift bags and stuff. Mailing them used condoms and dead rats. In what world is that okay? That would get you fired from any other career in the world and probably blacklisted from ever working in that industry again. Only an actor could get away with something that terrible. So I don't know. He's just sort of a weirdo. Universal could afford to buy some really big sets back in the day. Yeah, Universal could. Definitely. Will you stop it? I don't know what you want. Axanar was amazing, but then they ran into CBS suing them. Well, they spent too much money. At what point does something stop being a fan film and being, full-on copyright infringement? You have to protect your intellectual property. If you don't defend your intellectual property and you just let anybody that wanted to make a fan film, that can legally open you up to somebody else saying, oh, they've abandoned their full interest in their copyright, so I should be allowed to make a monetized Star Trek movie. You have to defend your intellectual property and say, like, no, we don't allow that. So, there has to be a limit. And those guys that were making Axanar were, like, hiring real actors and, like, spending tons of money on it. And it was just sort of like, well, this isn't really a fan film anymore, unfortunately. So they sort of shot themselves in the foot in that one and sort of ruined it for everybody else, in my opinion. Doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. They were just way too ambitious with what they were doing for a fan film. I don't know if everybody's familiar with that story, but it's like these people like made their own Star Trek like fan film, and it was like they were hiring actual actors from past Star Trek shows and spending tons of money on special effects and sets. It's kind of crazy if you ask me. It just doesn't make any sense at all. Meow? Do you say meow, Cheebs? I'm probably going to have to take off if my cat keeps meowing like that. I feel like I'm coming across as a bad pet owner, but I love my cat. I just can't seem to stop her from meowing right now. Trust me, she's had plenty of food. She's not still hungry. She's got water. And I took her to the vet recently. They say she's not in pain, that she just likes to meow, but it's getting annoying. Too much hype. What's too much hype? Axanar? Is that what you're talking about, RuneScape? Viola Davis was apparently the only one that shut Leto's nonsense down regarding that set wackiness. Good for her. Good for her. Like, who allows that? Like, the director and the producers definitely should have stepped in and been like, dude, you can't send used condoms or dead rodents to other people. Like, that's completely inappropriate work behavior. You're acting. You're not becoming the Joker. And the Joker doesn't even do that. I remember my friend's cat just liked to eat human food, and that was a tough thing to stop. Welcome, Jordan. But yeah, I think that like Jared Leto's behavior is not appropriate, and I can't see how it truly benefits him. Like, how does that put you in character by sending your coworkers horrible things in the mail? Like that, then you go to bed and you wake up and you're like, oh, I actually feel like the Joker today. I'm gonna give him a better performance because I did that. Yeah, it was too bad that Viola Davis, first of all, is a very, very good actress, and she was really well cast as Amanda Waller. She did fine. There were a couple good parts within Suicide Squad. There were a couple good parts, but overall, I think it was a pretty crummy movie. That said, they're apparently keeping her for this Suicide Squad sequel that James Gunn is doing. They're keeping a few of the actors, so good. Maybe we'll get something better second time around. The problem with the first one is mostly in the script. It just, in the script phase anyway, it just doesn't make sense that they needed to hire all these sort of like guys that for the most part are just a little bit strong, or they shoot really well, or they throw boomerangs, or they're good with ropes, and they were like, oh, what if there was a Superman level threat? And then there is basically with this supernatural threat, and I'm like, how are these guys really supposed to, realistically, like the government really thinks that these guys are the ones to send in against the Enchantress? That doesn't make sense to me. If the threat was Joker, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Hire Deadshot, hire Killer Croc, etc. To take out Joker and his goons. Joker would have made sense as a villain in that movie. But and then you like put on top of that basically Amanda Waller puts herself in danger, which is like the inciting incident to the formation of the team, and I'm just like, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of sending them on some sort of supposedly expendable mission. Just send the regular military if Amanda Waller herself is in danger. I don't know. There was so much about that Suicide Squad movie that didn't make sense to me anyway. Maybe it made more sense to other people. Oh, look at this. We just got a cameo by somebody. Thank you. She just jumped into frame. You are silly. Let's say, I know it's not ever happening, but what do you think of the proposed Channing Tatum Gambit movie? He probably could have been a good Gambit. Like, you know, Channing Tatum's a pretty good actor. I think that, like, the trick, in my opinion, would have been, like, to really add a bunch of humor to that movie. I think that, like, set it in New Orleans, because that's a pretty good, unique locale. That's where Gambit's from. Get some good supporting characters and make it kind of funny. And it probably could have worked. Katana didn't do anything in Suicide Squad. She did nothing. There was no point to her being there. He was a bad Duke, in my opinion. Yeah, but I don't think that that's Channing Tatum's fault. Like, that first G.I. Joe movie is just not well written. It's not a good movie. There's been plenty of stuff that he is good in. I think he's hilarious in those 21 Jump Street movies. The most underrated superhero movie? Underrated. The Shadow? It's a little campy, but it's actually pretty cool. I think that, like, and not that many people remember or talk about it, so if we're going to talk underrated, I'll give it to The Shadow. Kick-Ass? Well, Kick-Ass was a huge hit. I mean, it got a sequel, so I don't think that Kick-Ass is underrated. You are being very silly tonight, little girl. Your cat is very active today. Man, she is wound up. Because she used to meow a little, and then she, like, kind of calmed down over the last couple of days. But tonight, she is just something else. I don't mind, but I feel like it's probably a little tough for you guys to just hear this constant meowing. I don't know. I don't mind it. Jared Padalecki from Supernatural would be a good Gambit. I'd say he's sort of got the look. I don't know. Could he pull off like an authentic Cajun accent? I mean, as an actor, he should be able to. I don't know. Maybe. I've heard worse ideas. The meowing is cute. Oh, thank you. Tell the cat to meow more. All right. We don't hear it as much as you. Okay, that's really good. I was just afraid that you guys were just like hearing me try to talk and it was just like meow, 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 meow. She's just like right here, just like walking all around, just like talking, and there's no point to it. She's not teaching me anything I don't already know. I'm glad none of you seem to mind. That's awesome. I might have the best audience in all of YouTube. My volume is too high. Oh, you know what? I can actually turn that away, and actually I can also sort of adjust how high I set the volume. But maybe I just had the mic a little too close to me. You hear meowing when most people talk. Do I like movies from Wes Anderson? Yeah, I do. I don't think I've seen everything he's done, but I've liked everything that I've seen that he's done. Rushmore, Aquatic Life of Steve Zissou. I know I've seen some more. There was the one with like Edward Norton and like sort of like a version of Boy Scouts. I'm forgetting it. I still need to see the Grand Budapest, I believe. I haven't seen that one yet. Chuck Norris is the only one. Ken Cordell Walker? Okay, I didn't get that one. Have I seen the B horror movie The Prophecy? It's from 1979 about a mutant bear attacking people when Forest and Company pollutes on native lands and it's wrongfully seized through the government. Actually, I think I've heard of it, but I definitely haven't seen it. Will I be picking up anything for a comic trope on my trip to Japan? To be decided. We'll definitely be taking a look at plenty of things. Well, I'll be getting some Gachapon for the machine. I'll be recording an episode there. I confirmed my studio space today, so I will be recording an episode of Comic Tropes while I'm there. Will I be picking anything up that becomes like fodder for an episode? To be decided. But Chrissy got us SIM cards, prepaid like SIM cards, so that I can get unlimited 4G LTE access on my phone when I'm over there. So I may do at least one live stream at some point, like some sort of big location or something. Like take some questions and just sort of be in a scenic environment. I'll try to take some videos of like nerdy stuff like Nakano Broadway and Mandarake and things like that. I will try. We'll see. The monster from The Prophecy looked like Pizza the Hut from Spaceballs. That's awesome. That's funny. Have I ever read the Puppet Master comics? No, I didn't know that they made Puppet Master comics. I think they're pretty wild and really got me into that series, even if the ending of the comic had an abrupt end. Hello, Russia. Fortnite play every day. You are just becoming the star of the show, aren't you? You can jump? Okay. Okay, well, hi. Apparently, Chibi wants to be on camera a little bit more. Can you just, at least just sort of sit in my lap? Because I'm trying to work over here. Fortnite play every day. This is interesting. Like, I get people from all sorts of different countries, but Russia is not one that I would have expected. Do you read comics? And does Russia make their own comic books? Do you guys have like a Russian superhero comics over there, or Russian crime comics, anything like that? Or do you mostly like maybe import comics from Europe and Asia? Well, Chibi's trying to hijack the stream. She is. It's like the second time she's jumped in front of you all, and like the third or fourth time she's jumped in my lap. She's an old girl is all. I think she just likes to be held. So, as soon as I'm done here, I'll hold her for a little while and she'll chill out. In Russia, comic books read you. Probably. No Hurt Feline says, I'm working on going to Japan next year before the summer. Do you have any tips for my first time there? It really depends on how much time you have and exactly what you want to accomplish. She wants your attention really bad. She kind of does. But you know what? I live with her. She can be patient. I would say, if you can learn even a few phrases in Japanese, like that's helpful. They just seem to appreciate it when you give like a little bit of an effort to say like polite things like hello and thank you and stuff like that. In my experience, at least in Japan, Um, they're really good about speaking English. It's amazing. It really is, because I went there in the '90s, and hardly anyone there spoke English other than like at a hotel, like the concierge might. But now when I go, because I've gone like 3 times, like in more recent years, like they must be teaching English in the schools, because like the people in almost every store seem to at least speak some conversational Japanese. It's pretty amazing. I don't expect it, but you do encounter a lot of it. The signs tend to be bilingual, so it's pretty easy to get around on the subway. Um, if you want to visit a bunch of different places, probably makes sense to get a hotel and talk to them about like public transportation. Personally, I like staying in Tokyo, and I specifically really just like Shibuya for a place to stay. There's a lot of areas in Tokyo I love, but I like staying in Shibuya because it's got a great central train system that can get you around everywhere pretty fast, so that you're not like walking too much or anything. Like just easy to do transfers. Um, and if you want to do anything unique, like go to say Studio Ghibli, you have to get the tickets ahead of time. You can't buy them there the day of. So think about what you want to do, and there might be other situations that have, or places that have similar rules. You may need to plan ahead, is all. Japan is now trying to capitalize on tourists and Olympics, so they're trying their hardest to reduce language barrier now. But they have been for a couple years now. They really, it's so impressive. Yeah. It's a place I would sincerely consider moving to, if I, could work from anywhere. I think I would kind of enjoy my time there. I've been several times. I love traveling. I like traveling around the world, but I keep coming back to Japan. I just really like it there for some reason. I've had nothing but good experiences. Have you been to many places in Japan, or mostly Tokyo? Well, mostly Tokyo. I've also been to Osaka and Kyoto. So, a little bit of other places. And then, like, the last trip, we also did, like, sort of a touristy bus trip out to, like, sort of further out villages, like an old castle and the base of Mount Fuji. So, went a little further out that time. I'm a city guy. I do like the city a lot, and Tokyo's among my favorite cities. I have a Japanese friend I talk to improve my comprehension conversation skills. Oh, that's really nice. Sounds really nice. I took Japanese in college for 4 years and have been studying since. Gotcha. Is Val Kilmer going to have a bloated head in Top Gun 2? Is he in Top Gun 2? Because he's pretty big right now. I don't think he'd be very convincing as any sort of military instructor or anything. He's just a little too big. I just saw him. He has a small role in Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which I saw like a couple nights ago, and he's pretty big. He's pretty big. As long as he's feeling good, do whatever you want, Val, but I don't think he'd look the part of anybody that would fit into Top Gun 2. Val Kilmer hasn't aged well. It depends. He's had moments where he's sort of gotten himself back in a little bit of shape here and there, like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He was bigger, but he got himself like a little skinnier, and even in MacGruber, he's sort of like keeping it under control. You're like, okay, that's a bigger guy, but he's not unhealthy looking in any way. But right now, he's kind of looking pretty bloated. I don't know. I don't like to be judgmental. He may have medical concerns for all I know. I don't know much about Val Kilmer. Good night. What is this? What do you think of Kevin Smith doing the new He-Man show? It's fine. I don't really have much passion for He-Man, so Kevin Smith seems to like nerdy things from the 80s, so yeah, let him have it. Let him at it, Hoss. Did anyone love Val Kilmer in Real Genius? Hopefully anyone that's seen it. Anyone that's seen it should love him. That's a pretty funny movie. Maybe these days it wouldn't have the same impact since there have been so many sort of derivative types of movies like that, but at the time that was pretty original and very funny. I think it holds up pretty darn well. Let's see. I don't mean to linger on that, but I'm super curious. Have you watched the Puppet Master movies? Yeah, I've seen a bunch of the Puppet Master movies. They're okay. I went through a period of really liking a lot of the Full Moon stuff, or at least, I don't know if I loved it, but my favorite ended up being Trancers. I liked the Trancers series, mostly just because I liked that actor Tim Thomerson as the lead actor, Jack Death. I wouldn't say that I'm trying to think if there's like ever been a full moon movie that I could say like, no, that's good. That's like just all around good. There's several that I'd call entertaining, but I'm not sure if I'd call any of them like good per se. So that's just my take. I've seen Puppet Master like 1 and 3 and at least one other, but I can't remember which one it was. There have been a lot of them. I remember Doll Man versus Demonic Toys. Ever watched ripped off movies from the Asylum? I'm sure I've seen one or two, but I can't think. Did they do the Sharknado movies, though? I think Asylum was hired to do those. Because I watched all the Sharknadoes except whatever the last one was. Pretty sure the Asylum ended up producing those. I've seen one or two. I don't know. Jack Death, good American name, yeah. Val Kilmer has a hilarious guest star appearance as himself in Life's Too Short. I agree, he was pretty funny in that, and I also liked Liam Neeson's cameo in that one, but I also was kind of disappointed with Life's Too Short. Not like in Warwick Davis at all, but like it just, I don't know. It's kind of a bummer of a comedy, and like sometimes it would like really meander with its like plots, and like you'd just be like, okay, I just want to get to the celebrity of the week and see what they do with them. Like you should care more about the main character in the show, but you kind of don't. And then like the Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant moments could be like really disjointed from the rest of anything that was going on in the episode. He'd just like check in with them. What country does the name John Matrix come from? Oh, that's as American as apple pie. Didn't you hear that character? He's very American. This image would make a dandy tattoo. Yeah. Yep. Full Moon made the movie Dr. Mordred, which is definitely just Doctor Strange, except that they switched a few things around. Oh, who's the actor that played Dr. Mordred? He's the guy that was the Reanimator, and he was in oh, he's been in tons of stuff. I can't think of the actor's name right now. I'm terrible at remembering names. Have you picked up on that yet? Where I'm just like, oh, who am I thinking of? And I just wait for somebody in the chat to fill it in. Jeffrey Combs. Thank you, Cameron. Jeffrey Combs is great. Yeah, no problem. I know it's pretty late, Jordan, so thanks for jumping in. Appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot. Full Moon seems like a product of video rental store days. They totally are. They totally are. They were... The thing about, Full Moon that, bothered me was not that they, produced cheap movies or anything, but, how cheap they got with, their run times. They would make movies that would just barely hit 70 minutes. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that's not quite what I expect out of a movie. I'm hoping for more an hour and a half of entertainment. I don't know that 70 minutes quite cuts it. And they did that a lot, and they especially did it more in their later years, because they would film a movie and then they just divide it up and call it part 1 and part 2. I was like, this is getting a bit egregious. You should have just released this as one movie. You know what? I remember what I liked back in the day from Full Moon was Robot Jocks. That was pretty cool. Pretty ambitious, honestly, especially for coming from a smaller movie studio, or at least a low budget studio. Robot Jocks is a pretty big idea, with they're trying with their stop motion special effects to make it as convincing as possible. I appreciated the effort in that one. See you, Sokita. 3:06 p.m. Oh, okay. Let's see. Where's 3:06? 3 o'clock. 3. Oh, p.m. So you're in Europe? Yeah, a lot of people saying that they saw Robot Jocks. That's cool. The Robot Jocks is fun. Not great, but pretty darn entertaining for what it was. It's you definitely wanted more robot stuff, but they gave you a pretty good amount. They did. It was a cool premise, and yeah, it was good. It was good for its time, anyway. I haven't seen it in a long time. Does it hold up? I don't know. Maybe. I hope so. Probably not quite as much. I keep deciding to cover things up with more and more shadow and black in this, as compared to going in with my pencil and adding more detail. I think it looks cooler in lots of shadow. It's the only way to make the Leprechaun work. It's early morning in Europe, 8 a.m. in the UK. Okay, so you have to go the other way to... Right. I'd have to go west to go down in hours. 4 p.m. here in Japan. Oh, I forgot, Rebel Leaf, that you're in Japan. That's cool. So Cameron and Rebel are both in Japan. Oh. Cameron and Rebel are both in Osaka. They're both in the same city. You guys should meet up and talk comics. What's the best comic book store in Osaka? Do they have a Mandarake there? I think that those are pretty awesome comic book stores, that chain. The one in Shibuya is pretty darn big and has a lot of sort of I guess you'd call them antiques, but like, beyond like manga and stuff, they have like a lot of old toys. It's pretty exciting, fun stuff to see. Oh, Book Off. You did tell me about that once. Comic Book Osaka Meetup. I never saw the Batman Elseworlds Vampire Trilogy. Sounds like a good idea. There are 2 Mandarake in Osaka? Oh, okay, good. I know it's a big chain. They usually have some really cool, unique stuff there. Like if you are patient and like ready to dig. They also seem to carry a lot of that fan-made, like I forget how to pronounce it, but it's something like Dojo Shin, which is like fan-made comics. They have much more lax rules on copyright in Japan, and they also tend to think of like fan creations as being a potential talent pool for upcoming pros, which is cool. Thanks, RuneScape. I think it looks pretty good for a ridiculous character. Do I like H.P. Lovecraft? I don't like him as a person. I like the mythology he created. As a person, he was a racist. There's like no way around it. But he did create some fascinating mythology. I'm not going to bother inking this like pot of gold that I'd put in here, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm so close that I can like basically keep going and wrap up the main character here. So I think I shall. How do you even tell if Batman became a vampire? That's a good point. Yeah, sorry, Captain Negativity. I didn't see your comments. And I'm not sure what movie that is. That one doesn't ring a bell. That's interesting, Alami. I guess I haven't read everything about like Lovecraft's life. I just know a little bit. But the book that I reviewed that like went up in the most recent Comic Tropes, Lock and Key, explicitly borrows from Lovecraftian mythology. Lovecraft had the idea of like a realm of demons called Leng, Leng, and that is explicitly where Dodge or Lucas or Legion, whatever you want to call him, like the demon that inhabits him, that is explicitly where he comes from. And I mean, the town that the Locke family moved to was called Lovecraft, Massachusetts. So it definitely trades in some of the ideas of Lovecraftian mythology. So yeah, I definitely like respect that. The Afterlife with Archie comic also deals with Lovecraftian mythology. Sabrina the Teenage Witch gets like sent to hell in that comic, and she's like tormented by a being that looks a lot like Cthulhu. You're getting snagged by a filter. Oh, okay. There are some default filters that I haven't like tried to mess with. they're after me pot of gold, and they're always after me Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious. These kids are always after me strawberry smiggles. So, a priority for me after tomorrow night's stream will be getting to the comic book store. Well, yeah, but also getting to the art store and getting myself a bunch of new pens. Gotta make it through 10 more days. 10 more days! I'm so happy. Like, I've done this for, like, basically 2/3 as of tonight. That feels like an accomplishment. Do I remember the first arcade game I played? I don't, but it was probably Pac-Man, just being realistic. Like, I'm pretty sure, because I do remember playing that at a pretty young age. That would have been, like, about right. So it probably would have been Pac-Man. Can I do voices again? Sure. Give me an actor or a character, and I'll do my perfect, flawless vocal impressions for the last several minutes of the stream. Mine are getting dry too. I'm looking on Amazon for multi-liners. Cool. There was somebody in my chat for some of the nights that gets mad at me for not owning, like, basically a paintbrush and good, like, not like archival ink that I can just, like, do these big swaths with quickly. And that person has a great point. No, redneck is not considered a racist term. There's no way. Like, if somebody thinks that that's racist, they're being way too sensitive. Gotta be up early for class tomorrow. Good night, Chris, and everyone else. Good night, Eric. Thank you very, very much for jumping in. Appreciative of everybody that's in the chat room. Even if you're not commenting, just happy to have company here while I sort of doodle away. A killer clown from outer space? Maybe I will draw something like that. I have ink and a bush. Probably mean brush. I am just not good with them. Well, they definitely take practice. I can say that for sure. But I think that they give you a really good result. I think it's worth practicing with. Those kids, they're always after me strawberry smiggles. Isn't that the fictional cereal in Rick and Morty, Strawberry Smiggles? Oh, let's see. Morgan Freeman as a vocide. I don't know what a vocide is, but Morgan Freeman. Well, the thing about that is you have to like spiders, and me, I happen to like spiders. Not deep enough, but hopefully I got like a little something with the tenor. What else? Joker. Murray, you do one thing for me? Can you introduce me as Mr. Tropes? Columbo. It's just one thing I don't understand. Why does this drawing kind of suck? It's just one more thing I don't understand. Maybe you could enlighten me. There's just one part I don't understand. Okay, that makes sense, of course. There's just one more thing there. Just one more thing. George Costanza. Summer George! You just have to yell. Sean Connery saying cheese and crackers. Money penny. Could you please order me some cheese and crackers? The Thing? Thing ring, do your thing. Perfect, right? Every single one, like, better than the last. I'm terrible at impressions. I'm terrible. Samuel L. Jackson saying Royale with cheese. Hi, 1 Royale with cheese, please. I just don't think I could do a very good Samuel Jackson. If I did, I think it would sound racist. I just don't think I could do it. Wolverine. Want a piece of fruit? Ah, you're not worthy of joining the X-Men, love. It's me, Wolverine. And that's accurate if you've seen Wolverine's early animated appearances. They made him Australian for some reason. Columbo used to annoy criminals into confessing. He was just really good with his follow-up. Name's John Rambo, and I am the law. I am the law. Throw down your weapons and prepare to be judged. I knew you'd say that. Can't get my voice deep enough for some of these. Scream before November. Hello, Sydney. Perfect. Nailed it. I'm Ghostface. Do a decent Boris Karloff. That was me as Frankenstein's monster. Perfect. I wonder if an innocent person ever confessed to a crime just to get away from Columbo. Definitely. Every episode. Christian Bale Batman. I don't wear hockey pads. Christopher Walking as Deadpool. Okay. I am Deadpool. Nailed it. Bane from the last Dark Knight movie. You merely adopted an impression. I was born in it. Venom. Hey, I'm Venom. Nice to meet you. How's it going? Fraser Crane. Oh, really, Niles? Throat Cancer Batman was so ridiculous. Oh, I kind of liked it, but yeah. Adam Sandler, goofy voice. Woohoo! Well, these are making me laugh. It's probably annoying all of you, but somebody asked for it. Hello there. This is Adam Sandler. Ooh. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Want to go to Mars. I think I'm done, folks. Done with the impressions. Done with the drawing for tonight. I'll just sort of tilt it so that you can sort of see what I did, because I sort of drew it lengthwise tonight. Anyway, I had a good time. I really did. I had fun. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you for the questions. It was really a fun conversation pretty much the whole night. So I'm always grateful to all of you for that. I'm probably never going to get to meet most of you in person, but it means a lot to me that you watch my show. I put a lot of work into it. I really feel I do. And all I really hope for is that people watch it. And that's happening. And so thank you. You're all making that means something to me. I started this show to sort of battle depression, and it does help me. It helps me a lot. So the only thing is, if I was making the show and it was like, only going out to like 2 or 3 people, that's awesome that those 2 or 3 people might like it, but at the same time, I'd feel like I was just sort of shouting my opinions into a vacuum. and I'm not. There's a lot of, like, because you're all here in this chat room. I get a lot of like replies these days to my videos. I get a lot of social media ats and comments and retweets, and that interaction means a lot to me. It just means that, like, I'm creating something that at least some people are appreciating, and that means a lot to me, because I just want to talk about the creative process of comics and what makes certain comics good. And it means a lot to me, and I like talking about it. But I wouldn't like talking about it just by myself, I don't think. So I just want to say thank you. That's sort of my long-winded way of saying thank you. What you guys are doing for me means a lot. And I've had a good time tonight. I'll have a good time tomorrow. Before I leave, and I know I'm wrapping everything up and taking too long to do so, but let's take a quick look at the prompt word for tomorrow. It is day 22, ghost. Oh, well, that's certainly thematic with horror. Like, I've been doing like all horror characters. Ghost. There's tons of ghosts. I'll have to give that some thought. Until then, be seeing you, and keep reading comics. Bye bye.